This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
Stuff went numb that shouldn't go numb, you know what I'm saying? I was like, what is going on?
No, I don't.
No, you don't.
And co-host Marney Winfield.
It was kind of an awkward thing. He's like, would you guys want to come along? Can you get away to come to the island? I'm like, yeah, we just got back from there.
It is the 29th of January, and the year is 2023. My name's Corey Winfield.
My name's Marney Winfield.
And welcome to the 217 Recovery Podcast. We've been gone for a while. I think we just did one podcast last week on a Wednesday. I did it with Adam Brothers. Mm-hmm. Did you hear that podcast?
I didn't.
You did not. You don't listen to the podcast. And I don't blame you. You're busy. Otherwise, you'd be on the podcast.
Right? That's why I'm not on the podcast.
Well, Adam, I'm not going to say he let me down, but he crushed all my dreams and hopes.
Why is that?
Well, we were going to try a little cross-promoting. And so when he was on, we talked about his podcast that was coming up this weekend. He said it was going to be a big podcast. You know, I thought, man, this would be perfect. We'll cross-promote it. And I thought we'd play a little 217 game in the meantime. And if you're not familiar with the 217 game, it goes back to when I was in treatment. It actually goes back to my old days in radio when we would give each other stuff to say. And then we have to work it in to our breaks. And we couldn't just say Volkswagen. Like you had to like work it into like a real story. And we did that in treatment and out of treatment, you know, at meetings sometimes. And we would just have fun. Sometimes it was nonsense. Mm-hmm. But it was fun for us and we did it. And it was fun. So I told Adam he had to work in the words midget booty. And he was all for the cause. And I said, look, I'll even make a 217 Recovery midget booty t-shirt. So if one of our listeners listens to your podcast, they just have to email and say what time they heard it. And I'll send them a t-shirt with midget booty, like one and only t-shirt. Mm-hmm. Collector's item. And I reminded him again yesterday. I'm like, hey, man, don't forget. He's like, yeah, I'm trying to think how I'm going to work it in. And then I get an email or a message from him. Hey man, I couldn't work it in. And I said, yeah, 217 game's not for everybody.
There you go.
But it just had me feeling some kind of way, you know?
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That was really upsetting for you.
Okay. Yeah, just keep me posted.
I'll keep you posted. Nah, it wasn't, but I just wish he would have, though. Mm-hmm. Like I think he just got scared. Well, clearly.
Yeah.
He was like, it was a real serious podcast. I'm like, all our podcasts are serious.
No, they're not.
And I can work in midget booty.
I mean, you could have said like talking parrot or something that was, you know, a little more, maybe not, I don't know, making people feel some kind of way.
Like munchkin booty, you mean? Or like little person booty?
I'm just not saying that at all. Saying something very, just kind of.
I don't know. I don't remember if we were actually talking about anything that would have brought that up. And that's why it occurred to me. I can't remember that far back.
Wednesday?
That was a long time ago. I've been having a tough time with my stomach, though, lately.
Yeah, I know.
And it really bothers me. So that's kind of why we didn't. Well, that's why, matter of fact, we didn't do one yesterday.
Right.
My stomach was hurting, and I was like, I'm not going to do it today. And you were like, we can do one tomorrow.
And here we are.
Yep. So how's college going?
Oh, man. It's good. It's good. I'm on top of it. You know, just making a schedule for myself. And I'm just okay with the fact that my weekends are not mine anymore. To do as I want. I have to set aside time for homework and stuff, but I knew that was happening, and it makes it easier on me if I'm on top of it and things are structured. So
that's the difference between you and me.
Yeah.
Like last semester when I was attempting to go to college again, when I started my homework when football came on, I'd turn football on and then I'd open my laptop and be like, all right, now it's test taking time.
Yeah.
Where you do it and I see you in there working and you're just busting your butt. But when you get done, that sense of like,
It is. It is. And you know what, too, is the other piece about where I'm at right now is I do the best that I can with each assignment, right? And I don't expect A's like I did when I was an undergrad. It's not what I'm striving for. I'm just striving to have done a good job and been thorough as I can. Mm-hmm. And you know what? If I don't get a 4 point, then I don't get a 4 point. That's not going to crush me. It doesn't hurt me. It's just, reflecting that I've done the work and gave it my all. So
and that you're learning, and that's the fun part of like you're kind of wrapping up your stuff. So I'm sure you're learning all the time. I'm sure it's tedious when you have to like make presentations. You're like but the stuff that you're learning, it really helps when you're like wanting to learn that stuff. It
does. It doesn't feel like it at the very moment, like as you're submitting each assignment, but overall, just the genuine flow of things and how you learn things. And I think this probably goes for anything that you're learning, is it accumulates that knowledge, that foundational knowledge, like accumulates and grows on it. And you hear it again and you hear it again and you hear it in context and you hear it in another class. And then you reflect on what you learned from the last class and this class. And, the whole idea is being the best professional you can be at the end. But it's all a learning experience. I bet you ask any professional anywhere in any whatever they do, that they're better at it now than they were when they first started. Lawyers and doctors probably even. I mean, there's constant learning, continuing education.
You ever had a boss that you didn't like because they were hard on you, and then years later looking back, you're like, oh, they're trying to teach me something?
No, because I never really had any real jobs before. Not saying that's not fair. I've had real jobs. My jobs were like in restaurants. So, I mean,
no offense to people who work in restaurants.
Yeah, no, it's not. I'm just saying like you don't have, I don't take offense with some restaurant manager running around yelling at you because, there's only so much. I mean, you can get yelled at for stuff that has nothing to do with like your profession as a server.
You get what I'm saying?
Thanks. Exactly.
It makes sense now.
Yeah. So.
Now I get what you're saying. I had a boss in Arkansas. His name was Dave Ashcraft, and I would get so frustrated with him because A, he wasn't doing it my way, and B, he wanted me to do it his way. And in radio, there's this thing called the complete sheet, and in order to get that, you have to play so many commercials for this company. It's kind of like, I'm going to date myself here, Rick D's Weekly Top 40. Boot Scootin' Nights, Ryan Seacrest, like when you play those top 40 shows, you get to play them, but you play their commercials during their show. Like they might have a 4-minute commercial break. Well, 2 minutes their commercials, and 2 minutes you can play your commercials. And then throughout the week, you have to like work in X amount of commercials for them. Mm-hmm. So to get this complete sheet, you kind of had to do the same thing. And it takes up what in radio people call inventory. Like our stop sets, I think were 6 minutes long, our commercial breaks, up to 6 minutes long. And when your sales team was on it, like those commercial breaks were full. So all of a sudden now we have to play a stupid commercial for this company that's giving us this complete sheet with everything on it. It'll tell you who's on every single show, who won or got kicked off Survivor, and maybe have audio clips. If you live in Traverse City, you probably hear, well, I don't know, I haven't really heard any stuff like that from any of the stations here, but wherever you're at, if you listen to them, they're like, here's what happened last night. And it's like, oh, Aisha on Basketball Wives or whatever that show is, she does this. And anyway, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't. But my boss said, no, you're not getting that. And I thought, what? But it has everything I need in it. It has even drops. It has content. I can really connect with the listeners this way. He said, no, we're not going to give out inventory for that. He's like, anything that's in there, you can find online yourself. Don't let those people dictate what you talk about just because you're lazy.
Wow.
I said, he didn't say that part, but that's pretty much what he said. Mm-hmm. I said, but it'll make my job easier, and then I don't have to look. I can do other stuff like play poker with Ron or go outside and play wiffle ball. That's what I was doing.
That's exactly why he said there's no reason why you can't
But
come
he
up
was
with it
right.
on your own.
And later, looking back at it, and I wasn't too butthurt about it. I just thought, man, that'd be a lot easier. But I enjoyed finding things on my own to talk about. And when I came to Benton Harbor, there was like 4 stations in there or whatever, and they all kind of sucked. And they were all talking about the same thing because they all had the same sheet. They were all reading it word for word. I mean, it was horrible. And so I told my guys, I was like, no, we're not using that. Like, throw that in the trash. Like, I wouldn't print it out for them. So we're not using that. Because dude across the hall's using it. Lady down the hall is using it. Like, everybody's using it. Build your own show. And they probably looked at me like I looked at Dave that one time. Like, but dude, it's so much better. And they might look back. Well, no, they didn't. Because there was one guy there that had some potential. There's nobody else there. They all wanted to just make $9 an hour, live in their mom's basement. That kind of crushed me too. I'm like, you guys don't want to leave Benton Harbor? They're like, nah, I'm good here, bro. But one dude had a little bit, but he was a little off and needed a little help. But I bet he looked back and was like, wow, Winfield kind of did help me. I thought he was just an asshole. I was kind of I was not drinking and I wasn't doing anything else. So I was white knuckling it.
Oh, there you go.
And I just moved back home and nobody at the radio station knew about my drinking past. I told them that I almost died though, but I blamed that on medication and mixing something. I don't know. I made some stuff up. So I told them I don't drink and I can't drink anymore, but I was white knuckling. I wasn't going to therapy. I wasn't doing anything. So it was a little tough. And then my whole world came crashing down and the old friend came back. But I did go to Pine Rest in Grand Rapids first. A little mental health thing. And Pine Rest, I often refer people to that, and it was known, and I don't know if you might know what the DSM-5 says now, but back then it was called dual diagnosis.
Yeah, it's still it's co-occurring or dual diagnosis.
Which, by the way, if you're just listening for the first time and you have a family member, friend, or if you're in recovery yourself, you might already know this, but everybody has mental issues. Like there's something going on in every single person. And I wasn't drinking because it tasted good. I wasn't drinking because it was fun. I was drinking to escape a pain, and I wasn't really sure what that pain was. And it's easy with alcohol to start everything. Oh, I'm stressed at work. Oh, this and that. And then I'd come home from work after the hospital stay that I had, and I was like 4 months sober. And I remember how easy work was. I would go in at 6 a.m. and think, this is so easy. Like, I would be struggling. Like, it would take everything I had to go in my studio at 2 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I'm dying. And that's when the real shake started, and I'm just trying to finish up my shows, and it was hell. But going in sober, oh, man, it was great. Like, I was just like, this job's so easy. Like, I love it. It's so easy. And I sounded better. I wasn't like, Big Dog 95.9, Fort Smith's Classic Rock Station. It was just like I was on point and I sounded good and I felt good. And so a lot of people, when they go back to their job after they get some sobriety time, they just realize, oh my God, like this is so much easier. And it's not as bad.
Yeah.
Getting to work at 7 a.m. isn't nearly as bad.
Yeah.
It's a whole different world, and it's a beautiful world. But Dave was a good boss, and I'm glad that he kind of taught me that.
Did you ever tell him that? Like now?
I don't think so.
Maybe that's something you could do.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, it's worth talking. You brought it up.
Yeah.
That's obviously worth talking about. So
I think very highly of Dave. He was a pretty cool boss, but it was a boss. Like, we weren't friends. But he'd help you out if you could. And I'd ask for a raise. I said, hey man, I need a raise. He's like, well, you got your ratings bonus. I'm like, yeah, but I want a raise. All right, let me see what I can do. And then next week comes back. It's like, all right, you can do afternoons in Fayetteville. I said, whoa, I'm already doing afternoons in Fort Smith. He's like, well, yeah, you can do afternoons in Fayetteville too. $6,000 a year, man. You want it? There's your raise. I'm like, Well, see, I wanted to just make more money. I didn't say, hey, Dave, give me some more duties.
Yeah.
Let me do afternoons in a different market. And then he comes and he's like, you want another raise? I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, I'm thinking about, instead of hiring a promotions director, just make you the promotions director, you know? Or $5-6 grand or whatever it was. I was like, okay. I was like, but I don't know anything about promotions. He's like, you'll figure it out. Okay. It's kind of funny if you think about it. But yeah, I mean, make them work for it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And now looking back at all that stuff, I'm glad I learned it. You know, like promotions and how to write a proposal. And Jay Deacon back in Kalamazoo taught me kind of a little bit how to do that. But it was different in Fort Smith, like running promotions, because I was in charge of 4 stations and all their promotions. And starting a food drive, which they let go to shit. Whatever. It was cool. We raised so much money. Because that's another thing. People think you can just drop off cans of beans that have been in your cabinet for 3 years. First of all, most of the time they're expired and they just throw them away. So now you're creating more work for them. Where if you just donate money, they can go and buy in bulk and get the stuff that people need and like actually put a meal together for people.
Yep.
Instead of just cans of green beans. So even to this day, when I hear radio stations saying, come on, drop off your perishable, I'm just like, oh, I bet that food bank hates them. Because the radio station or whoever's doing their promotion is usually teamed up with some store. And they're telling the store, hey, man, we're going to have people come in buying all kinds of food. Grocery store doesn't need people to come in and buy green beans. To you know, like that was small-minded Ben Harbor stuff. Because when I got there, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like that. The food bank does not want you to get green. And they were just like, look at all the pallets we filled up. And I'm like, oh, I bet they're just fucking thrilled. Excuse the language, but yeah, you got to know your people. But they were doing it more, not for the charity and the food bank. They were doing it because they wanted to show the grocery store that they could sell green beans, or I don't know. It wasn't done for the right reason. Anyway.
That's a lot of growth, though, for you. That's good.
Yep. But maybe I'll reach out to Dave and tell him thanks.
Good idea.
And he'll listen to this podcast and say, well, maybe you should have planned that podcast out, too. Just in there rambling about shit.
Oh, my gosh.
Dropping F-bombs.
Right?
Bitching about your friend who didn't say midget booty, which is politically incorrect.
You're right.
I don't think I would have got away with a lot of stuff nowadays.
No, probably not.
It was different back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
In 96, when I started. Way different.
Yeah.
Now you got to worry about people's feelings. Like, oh.
I know. Isn't that something else?
Feelings. And people call me fat all the time. You think that hurts my feelings?
No. Nobody does that.
Probably. But I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I just sometimes feel rude because I don't have time for other people's feelings. Like, whatever somebody else wants to be, go ahead, man. You know, but then if you think about it, back in probably the early 80s, hell, maybe even the early 90s, like being gay was like, whoa, like don't tell nobody, you know, they're gonna think this and that. And now, and I'm sure in some cities and some cultures or whatever, some parts of the country, it's still the same old way. But to move it forward, I guess you have to accept that. And I don't know if I don't think I've ever had anything against gay people.
Oh, we've come a long way with a lot of things. But this, what you're talking about, kind of reminds me of that movie we watched yesterday. You People, Eddie Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of reflects the same feeling and ideas that you're talking about right now. And it's, oh my God, what's his name?
Eddie Murphy?
No.
Jonah Hill?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to say Seth Rogen, and I knew that was not right. So, anyway, Jonah Hill's in it, and it's, it's about this, different racial, interracial relationship and the struggles that, regardless of the fact that they're completely in love with each other, that they just don't feel accepted as a couple by their families, and how that stuff is just like so deep rooted that they can't get past it. They feel like they can't get past it. Like their love isn't enough. It can't withstand these social pressures and, ideals, which was sad. I cried.
You did.
I cried a lot, actually.
Yeah, you did.
I didn't like bawl, but I was like teary-eyed because I was like, this is so sad.
Right.
Like they love each other. And then I got kind of sad, angry. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I really hope Eddie Murphy doesn't feel that way, which is questionable. I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing, my opinion about that, but I want to jump back in. Well, before I give that, hold on, let me jump around a couple more times.
Okay.
When I said that I don't think I had anything against gay people, I just meant like I didn't, like growing up, like I didn't want people to think I was gay because it was kind of a bad thing. Even though personally, I didn't care. People could do whatever they wanted to. And I guess I feel more like that today. And maybe because people do talk about it. So maybe the other stuff, it's just kind of like, yeah. But like as far as like, whatever, man. Like I just don't care. I just go do whatever you need to do, man. Whatever makes you happy, go do it. And especially if it keeps you sober, then definitely go do it. But I don't know what it's like to be a gay person. I don't know what it's like to face those stereotypes. I don't. So the same thing with being, a person of color, whether it's Black, I guess, whether it's African American, Asian, Latino, I don't know what it's like. But again, I never will. Right. And he kind of hinted that in that movie, and then they kind of got away from it. But there's nothing wrong with that. I was raised white. People that are raised up in different cultures have different upbringings, and there's nothing wrong with having different upbringings. Like white people, Black people, Asian people, Latino people shouldn't all have the same upbringing. Right. I mean, sometimes sure you do, but as far as like the culture in a Latino family is completely different than what I was raised in, what you were raised in, what Tyrone was raised in. Tyrone was raised in a different culture, completely different than what I was raised in. We're friends. And I don't understand everything about his culture, but I don't bash it. Right. I don't think, I don't know. It doesn't have to be all the same. And I'm glad it's not.
Well, I think the funniest part about that is they were stuck in these weird spots where they knew they loved each other, and they knew that they loved each other despite the fact that they were of a different race. One another were. But it's like, we're in the spot. Like, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to acknowledge people's, race? Like they were, I don't know, you will get what I'm talking about if you watch the movie. Like, do I try to say words that are like, quote unquote, like Black people words to like to show that I'm cool with Black people and Black people's words, when that's like twisted, offensive sometimes. And in this case, they were kind of like, oh, that's cute that he's like trying to, and like dressing like in these clothes that reflect what, I don't know, would be cool for Black people to wear. And I don't know, it's just funny that, and the dad in that movie was hilarious.
David Duchovny.
He was making references to Exhibit the whole time. like she didn't want to talk about anything else. The whole thing is about like not seeing people as human beings, but seeing them as their race, and that's like a social and cultural thing. And that's what was getting in the way of them being together.
Yeah, because her family with Eddie Murphy as her dad, they were Muslim. And Jonah Hill's family, they were Jewish. And there was a scene when they're at the table and David Duchovny starts talking about the Jews were the original slaves, and Eddie Murphy took offense to that and said, okay, that was a long time ago. And I don't know, it was kind of funny, but kind of interesting. And it doesn't have to be my suffering was worse than yours. I really don't think that. And I'm not taking away from people suffering either. I'm just saying, like in that instance, you know, and obviously it's a movie. It's supposed to be funny. I don't think in real life that conversation would. I don't. Who knows, man?
Right.
I did mention I lived in Arkansas, so I've seen some things. You know, so not everybody, and not saying that people in Arkansas aren't caught up today, but like I'm just saying, not everybody in America is, and you know, technically you have the freedom to be racist if you want. If you want to just go around being miserable all day, hating people, technically you have that freedom. Now it's frowned upon, but that's again, do what you need to do, man. But I personally wouldn't want to carry that anger. I got enough anger for things. I don't need to carry it around for
That's
people
true.
and their colored, if the color of their skin or how they grew up or how they were raised.
Yeah, there's a lot of effort that goes into that. And that anger is exhausting. And it's pointless, really. It's not productive for anybody or anything. And it just makes things worse. No matter how you look at it. Anger is never good for anyone.
So I apologize to the state of Arkansas. Sorry.
There you go.
Did I tell you? I think we talked about that. The person that signed up from DeQueen,
Yeah.
Arkansas. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
I love social media.
Yeah, I think that's maybe how she found us. I don't know.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting. Like people that do sign up for shirts that live in different states, you know.
How did you hear about us?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a couple of people say, I saw you walking in Costco.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I saw you in church.
Yeah. Jill saw us walking in Costco and then
Staples.
No, it was Costco.
No, there was another lady at Staples.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's how we promote the show.
Wear the clothes.
Walk around town.
And people are just like, what is that?
Got church today. Now I didn't tell them it was a podcast, even though on my sleeve it said podcast.
There was a lady at my stepdad's healthcare place, and she was like, I'm gonna check it out. She's like, I love that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I sometimes forget that it's like I'm a billboard for it. I'm like, what do you love? I'm thinking my necklace or something. No, she's pointing to my shirt. So I'm sure obviously she was a person in recovery, which was very cool. So we had a moment with that, but
yeah, and I know Randy from our church listens because he was talking to me. We had coffee, I don't know, about a month ago, and he said, "Yeah, our church isn't about. What did he say? It's not about living this like perfect life. It's about connecting with God with where you're at, you know." And it was something that I'm like, I think he constructed that just for me,
right?
Because I just believe that, okay, I can listen to Tupac or AC/DC or Pantera or whatever, and God's not going to be like, you sinner.
Yeah.
Going to hell.
Oh, I really enjoy our church. I really do. And everyone seems really nice. And the thing is so many people introduce themselves, and I'll never remember their names. I try.
Somehow my radio, I was coming back from Freeland, Michigan. And somehow my radio got on some Christian station. And so I was like, all right, I'll listen to this for a minute. And the guy that was on, I wanted to call in so bad because he was talking about bad people and sinners and people that sin all the time don't even know what a bad sinner is because they give in to temptation, and people that give in to temptation are bad people. I was like, this dude's an idiot. That's what I thought.
That was the show.
Yeah, it was way worse than what I just mentioned, but it was like he was just giving bad examples, just calling people bad.
Yeah.
Like he was shaming people to be Christian.
That's definitely not helpful.
No. Like all they're going to do is hide it from you, homeboy. It was just a horrible show. Maybe he was a fill-in guy.
Maybe, let's hope.
I don't even know what station it was. I just was like, that's enough of that. And I listened to Pastor Deb. Today, oh man, her show's over. I was going to try to, but we had stuff to do after church. But I was going to call her. I'll text her. Today is Pastor Deb's 6 years.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, big congrats.
I love social media.
So she loves social media. That's Pastor Deb right there. Hit her up on social media and congratulate Pastor Deb. on her 6 years.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, because she has a part of her show where you can call in, I think, because she does her Sunday show live.
Oh, neat.
I believe. Because she those people from Canada call in.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, maybe next year.
Yeah, maybe next year. We'll catch you on year 7.
Yeah. I'll definitely send her a message. But
cool.
That's all I got today. I got to do work stuff.
Yeah.
So
I got to get back to some school stuff too.
Yeah, check out our videos online, 217recovery.com. There's resources. If you haven't downloaded our app yet, do so. We send you updates when we do new podcasts. We keep you up to date with that. We have them on YouTube. Podcasts are everywhere. Ours are. Pandora, Apple, Amazon, you name it. We're probably on it. So
yeah,
if you want a new way to listen, and our app. So thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Thanks, everybody. Have a really good Sunday.
Thanks for listening to the 217 Recovery Podcast. We hope you come back for our next episode.